Hello and welcome to Black Lady Tales. My name is Simone Harper, and I need you to take a deep breath before I tell you this story. Because what happened to me is something I never imagined could come from the mouth of a man I shared a bed with for 12 years. It was a Tuesday evening in April 2019, and I was standing in our kitchen marinating chicken thighs in my grandmother's jerk seasoning recipe. The smell of allspice and Scotch bonnet peppers filled the air, mixing with the sound of our daughter's laughter floating down from upstairs where they were supposed to be doing homework. I heard Marcus's car pull into the driveway, heard his dress shoes click against the hardwood floor in that distinctive pattern I'd come to know like a heartbeat. He walked into the kitchen, loosened his tie without looking at me, and poured himself a glass of the expensive bourbon he'd recently started buying. I should have known something was different. For the past 6 months, ever since his promotion to senior account manager at the luxury car dealership, Marcus had been changing in ways I kept telling myself were just growing pains. He'd started wearing designer labels I'd never heard of. He'd begun using words like optics and brand positioning when talking about our lives. He came home late 3 nights a week from what he called networking dinners with his new colleagues, men who drove six-figure cars and whose wives carried purses that cost more than our mortgage payment. Let me tell you who we were before that moment shattered everything. I was 38 years old, a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized pharmaceutical company in Charlotte, North Carolina. I worked hard, made decent money, and I was good at what I did. Every morning I woke up at 5:30 to make breakfast for our daughters, Olivia, who was 10, and Maya, who was 7. I packed their lunches with the crusts cut off their sandwiches just the way they liked. I drove them to school, went to work, picked them up, took them to dance class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, helped with homework, cooked dinner, attended every parent-teacher conference, and served as a deaconess at our church on Sundays. I was living what I thought was a good life, a blessed life, a life built on partnership and love. Marcus and I had met when we were both 26, young and ambitious and full of dreams about the future we'd build together. He was charming back then, attentive, the kind of man who remembered the small things. He knew I liked tulips better than roses. He knew I needed exactly 10 minutes of silence with my coffee before I could have a real conversation in the morning. We got married after dating for 2 years, had Olivia 3 years later, then Maya 3 years after that. We bought our house in a quiet suburban Charlotte neighborhood, where the lawn stayed green and the neighbors waved when you drove past. From the outside, we looked like we'd made it, like we'd done everything right. But in the 6 months since Marcus's promotion, I'd watched him start to drift toward something I couldn't name. He started making comments about leveling up and being around excellence. He'd scroll through social media looking at his new colleagues' vacation photos in Turks and Caicos and Positano, and I'd see something hungry in his eyes. He bought that $3,000 watch without discussing it with me first, just came home with it on his wrist and said, "I deserve to look successful, Simone. Image matters in my industry." I tried to brush it off, told myself he was just adjusting to new professional circles, that he'd settle down once the novelty wore off. But that Tuesday evening in April, standing in our kitchen with jerk chicken marinade on my hands, everything I'd been ignoring crashed down around me. Marcus took a sip of his bourbon and said, almost casually, like he was commenting on the weather, "I had dinner with the partners and their wives tonight. They're impressive people, Simone. Really impressive. The kind of people who've built something significant." I nodded, rinsing my hands in the sink. "That's nice, baby. I'm glad you're building good relationships at work." "Their partners are impressive too," he continued, and something in his tone made me turn around to look at him. Successful, polished, the kind of women who command attention when they walk into a room. I dried my hands slowly on the kitchen towel, a knot forming in my stomach. "Okay." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes wasn't the man I'd married. It was someone assessing, measuring, finding me insufficient. "Simone, I'm just being honest with you." he said, setting his glass down on the counter. My friends think you're not remarkable enough for me. You're comfortable, but you're not extraordinary. I could do better. The words hung in the air between us like smoke, acrid and suffocating. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, waiting for him to laugh and say he was just repeating some awful joke someone had told at dinner. But his face stayed serious, almost clinical, like he just delivered a performance review at work. He shrugged, actually shrugged, as if he just stated an obvious fact that anyone would understand. Upstairs, I heard Maya call out, "Mommy, I need help with my math." And the sound of her voice, so innocent and trusting, snapped something into place inside me. I could have cried. I could have yelled. I could have thrown the bowl of marinade at his head and watched it drip down his expensive shirt. But instead, I felt a cold clarity wash over me, the kind of clarity that comes when you suddenly see the truth of something you've been avoiding. I looked at the man I'd spent 12 years building a life with, the man I'd supported through career changes and family deaths and every hard season of life, the father of my children who were upstairs doing homework and trusting that their world was safe, and I said 5 words that I delivered as calmly as if I was telling him dinner would be ready in an hour. Then go find better, Marcus. His eyebrows shot up. This wasn't the reaction he'd expected. He'd expected tears, maybe begging, probably a desperate plea for him to tell me what I could do to be enough for him. He'd expected me to shrink, to apologize for not being whatever he decided I should be. Instead, I turned back to the chicken, placed each piece carefully into the baking dish, my hands steady even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. "Simone," he started, his voice carrying a note of surprise. "I said go find better," I repeated without turning around. "You just told me I'm not good enough for you, so go find someone who is." He stood there for a moment, confused by my composure, then he walked out of the kitchen. I heard his footsteps on the stairs, heard him tell the girls their mother would be up in a minute to help with homework, heard the door to his home office close. If you're watching this right now and you've ever had someone you loved make you feel small, please hit that like button so this story can reach other women who need to hear it. Subscribe to Black Lady Tales so you don't miss what happens next, because trust me, this is just the beginning. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I want to know who's riding with me on this journey. I finished preparing dinner mechanically, slid the chicken into the oven, set the timer, and went upstairs to help Maya with her fractions. I kissed Olivia goodnight after reading her a chapter of the book we were working through together. I took a shower, braided my hair, and climbed into bed next to a man who was already asleep, snoring softly like he hadn't just blown up our entire marriage. And lying there in the dark, listening to him breathe, I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream or break dishes or beg him to see my worth. I wasn't going to compete with whatever fantasy version of a partner he'd constructed in his mind. I wasn't going to shrink myself or stretch myself or perform to earn back his respect. Instead, I was going to do something he would never expect from the comfortable wife he'd just dismissed. I was going to remove myself from the equation completely and let him discover exactly what he'd lost. I was going to step back and watch him try to do better, and I was going to make absolutely certain I'd be just fine without him. The next morning after Marcus left for work and I dropped the girls at school, I sat in my car in the parking lot and made a phone call I'd been too afraid to make for 3 months. What Marcus didn't know was that I had been sitting on an opportunity for 3 months, something I'd been too scared to pursue because I didn't want to disrupt our comfortable life. But comfortable just became disposable, and I was about to show him exactly what remarkable looked like. The call connected on the second ring. Denise Miller speaking. "Denise, it's Simone," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Remember that business proposal you brought me 3 months ago? I'm in. When can we meet?" There was a pause, then I heard the smile in her voice. "Girl, what changed your mind?" Let's just say my priorities shifted overnight. I replied, watching a mother walk her kindergartner into the school building, their hands clasped together. How soon can we make this happen? Denise and I had been friends since our sophomore year at North Carolina A&T. She'd gone into nursing and eventually specialized in medical aesthetics, working at high-end med spas in Atlanta before moving back to Charlotte. 3 months earlier, in January 2019, she'd approached me at our sorority's winter brunch with a proposal that had made my heart race with both excitement and terror. She wanted to open a med spa in Charlotte's South End district, one of the fastest growing neighborhoods in the city. The area was booming with young professionals, new restaurants, luxury apartments, and people with disposable income looking for services that made them feel pampered and confident. Denise had the clinical expertise, the industry connections, and the vision. What she needed was a business partner who understood marketing, branding, and how to reach the customers who would make or break a luxury service business. She needed me. I've already got investor interest, she'd told me over mimosas and shrimp and grits. I've been scouting locations for 6 months. I've got relationships with equipment suppliers and product lines. Simone, we could build something real here, something that's ours. I'd listened to every word, felt the pull of it, imagined what it would be like to build something from the ground up instead of coordinating campaigns for products I didn't care about. But when I'd mentioned it to Marcus that evening, his response had been immediate and dismissive. A med spa? Simone, that's way too risky. You've got a stable job with benefits. We need that security, especially with 2 kids. This isn't the time to be chasing pipe dreams. He'd said it with such certainty, such finality, that I'd let the dream go. I texted Denise the next day with apologies, telling her I couldn't make the financial commitment work right now. She'd understood, told me the door would stay open if I changed my mind, and I'd filed the whole idea away in the drawer of things I'd wanted but couldn't have, until Marcus told me I wasn't remarkable enough. Now, sitting in that school parking lot with determination burning through my veins, I listened as Denise laid out exactly what we needed to make it happen. The numbers haven't changed, she explained. We need $75,000 combined for our partnership stake in the business. That covers the build-out of the space, equipment, initial inventory, licensing, insurance, and operating capital. For the first 6 months, I can cover $20,000. Can you handle the rest? My mind raced through the math. I had $40,000 in a savings account that my grandmother had left me when she passed 5 years ago. Marcus knew the inheritance existed, but he didn't know the exact amount because I'd kept that account separate, some instinct telling me to maintain something that was just mine. I could access another $15,000 from my 401k, though it would come with penalties and taxes. The thought of touching retirement money made my stomach clench, but this wasn't just about starting a business anymore. This was about building an escape route. I can cover $55,000, I told her. When do you need it? I need to move fast, Denise said. The location I want just became available, but I've got another interested party circling. If we can commit in the next 2 weeks, it's ours. Can you do that? I can do that, I said. And as I spoke the words, I felt something shift inside me. Fear mixing with exhilaration, grief mixing with fury, the old Simone dying while someone new fought her way to the surface. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop in Myers Park, spreading papers across a corner table while business professionals tapped away on laptops around us. Denise had everything organized in color-coded folders: market analysis, competitor research, financial projections, design concepts for the space. She'd been ready for months, just waiting for the right partner to say yes. We're targeting a specific demographic, she explained, pulling out demographic maps of Charlotte neighborhoods. Black and Latinx women between 30 and 55 with household incomes over $75,000. They're underserved in the medical aesthetics market. Most med spas in Charlotte are located in predominantly white neighborhoods, and their marketing doesn't speak to us. They don't understand our skin, our hair, our specific concerns and goals. I looked at the business plan, at the projected revenue streams from services like laser hair removal, microneedling, chemical peels, body contouring, vitamin infusions. I looked at the design concepts, showing a space that felt luxurious but welcoming, elegant but warm, a place where black and brown women would walk in and immediately feel like they belonged. We could be profitable within 18 months, Denise continued. Conservative projections put us at 60,000 in monthly revenue by month 6, 90,000 by month 12. If we do this right, Simone, we're not just opening a business. We're building wealth. We're creating something we own, something nobody can take from us. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Marcus was out there trying to surround himself with impressive people to make himself feel successful, I was about to become the impressive person he decided I wasn't. "What's our timeline?" I asked. "If we can secure the location and funding by the end of April, we can start the build-out in May. Hire staff in June and July. Soft launch in early August, grand opening mid-August. 4 months from now, we could be opening the doors." I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar. "August 15th, I said. "Let's make that the official opening date." The next morning, I went to a different bank across town and opened a new checking account in my name only. I transferred the $40,000 from my grandmother's inheritance. I contacted my 401k administrator and started the process of taking out the $15,000 I needed, knowing I'd pay a price in penalties, but deciding it was worth the cost of my freedom. I redirected my direct deposit from my paycheck to the new account, leaving the joint account I shared with Marcus to receive only his deposits. Then I called a divorce attorney. Her name was Patricia Chen, and she came highly recommended from a woman at my church who'd navigated her own difficult divorce 3 years earlier. I sat in Patricia's downtown office with its view of the Charlotte skyline and told her everything. The comment, the affair I didn't have proof of yet but suspected, the business I was about to launch, my desire to protect my daughters and my assets. Patricia listened without interruption, taking notes on a legal pad, her expression neutral and professional. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "Here's my advice. Don't tell him anything until you're ready to move. Document everything, every shared expense, every contribution you make to the household. Keep records of his spending, especially anything that seems unusual or excessive. If he's having an affair, that matters in North Carolina because we're a fault state for divorce. And whatever you do, don't let him know you're planning this until you're ready to file." "How long should I wait?" I asked. "Until your business is established, until you have your financial ducks in a row, until you're emotionally ready for what's coming," she said. "This isn't a sprint. It's a strategic operation. Be smart, be patient, and be thorough." I left her office with a retainer agreement signed and a clarity of purpose I hadn't felt in years. At home, Marcus continued his life as if nothing had changed. He came home from work, complained about traffic, scrolled through his phone during dinner, and retreated to his office afterward. But now his behavior took on new dimensions. Over the next 2 weeks, he made several more comments that once would have devastated me, but now just fueled my determination. At a dinner party with his colleagues at someone's house in the wealthy Myers Park neighborhood, he introduced me to a group of partners and their wives by saying, "This is my wife Simone. She does marketing for a pharmaceutical company, nothing too exciting." He said it with a slight laugh, as if my career was charming in its modesty compared to the corporate lawyers and finance executives around us. I smiled, shook hands, and made pleasant conversation while mentally cataloging his condescension. Another evening, he suggested I should work on my appearance if I wanted to fit in with his new social circle. "Maybe get your hair done professionally more often," he said, looking at my natural curls like they were a problem to be solved. "These women we're around, they're very polished. Image matters, Simone." I nodded, said I'd think about it, and redirected another $100 from our joint account into my business fund. He bought himself expensive things without discussion: new shoes, a leather briefcase, tailored suits. Each purchase came with the same justification: I deserve to look successful. Meanwhile, I was working two full-time jobs that he couldn't see. During the day, I went to my marketing coordinator position, performed my duties, attended my meetings. But every lunch break, every spare moment, every evening after the girls went to bed, I was building an empire in the shadows. Denise and I met with contractors to discuss the build-out of our space. We reviewed permits and insurance requirements. We interviewed a nurse practitioner named Angela who had 10 years of experience in medical aesthetics and a warm demeanor that would make clients feel safe. We hired an esthetician named Kira who specialized in treatments for melanated skin. We met with equipment suppliers and negotiated pricing on lasers and treatment beds and all the tools we'd need to make our vision real. We created a marketing strategy that targeted our ideal clients where they actually spent their time: Instagram, Facebook groups for Black professional women in Charlotte, partnerships with local boutiques and salons, sponsorships of events that drew our demographic. I designed our brand identity with colors that felt luxurious but warm, with language that spoke directly to the women we wanted to serve, with imagery that reflected their beauty back to them. Our location was perfect: 2,500 square feet in South End, floor-to-ceiling windows, exposed brick, modern finishes. It needed work, but I could see exactly what it would become. I told Marcus I'd joined a book club with ladies from church to explain why I was gone 2 evenings a week. He barely looked up from his phone when I mentioned it, just said, "That's nice, baby," and went back to scrolling. My daughters noticed more than he did. Olivia, wise beyond her 10 years, asked me one evening while I was braiding her hair, "Mom, why does Dad keep saying mean things to you?" I paused, my hand still in her thick hair, choosing my words carefully. "Sometimes people forget to be kind, baby, but it's okay. Mommy's got everything under control." "Are you sad?" she asked, turning to look at me with those eyes that saw too much. "I'm not sad, sweetie," I told her, and it was true. I wasn't sad. I was focused. "I'm actually excited about some new things I'm working on. You'll see, soon." I made sure their routines never wavered: school drop-off and pickup at the same times, dance class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, homework help at the kitchen table, bedtime stories and goodnight kisses. Whatever was falling apart between their father and me, I was determined that their world would stay stable and secure. In mid-May, 3 weeks after Marcus had casually destroyed our marriage with a single comment, I had something special planned for his birthday. I'd booked a private room at one of Charlotte's upscale restaurants, invited 20 of his friends and colleagues, ordered his favorite bourbon, arranged for a custom cake. I'd spent weeks planning it, hundreds of dollars preparing it, and then I canceled all of it. I called the restaurant and canceled the reservation. I contacted every guest and told them there'd been a change of plans. I returned the expensive Tag Heuer watch I'd bought him, got the full refund, and transferred that money straight into the business account. On his actual birthday, I made him breakfast, gave him a card, and didn't mention the party that wouldn't be happening. He never asked why his friends hadn't reached out, never questioned why there was no celebration. He was too absorbed in his own world to notice what was happening in mine. To Marcus, everything seemed completely normal. I still cooked his favorite meals. I still asked about his day even though I'd stopped caring about the answer. I still slept in our bed, though I stayed on my side and felt nothing when his leg accidentally brushed against mine in the night. He assumed I'd accepted his assessment of me, that I'd quietly resigned myself to being the comfortable but not extraordinary wife, while he pursued whatever version of success he'd convinced himself he deserved. He had no idea that while he slept peacefully beside me, I was building an empire that would make his impressive colleagues look ordinary. 2 weeks after Marcus said he could do better, I was signing the lease on a 2,500 square foot med spa in South End. And that same night, at exactly 4 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Derek, Marcus's best friend since college. He was crying, and what he told me would crack open everything Marcus had been hiding from me. My phone vibrated on the nightstand at 4:17 in the morning, the sound cutting through the silence of our bedroom like an alarm. I grabbed it quickly, trying not to wake Marcus. But when I saw Derek's name on the screen, my heart started pounding for a different reason. Derek never called me directly. In 12 years of marriage, any communication with Marcus's best friend had always gone through Marcus himself. I slipped out of bed, grabbed my robe, and walked quietly down the hallway to the guest bathroom before answering. "Derek," I whispered. "Simone, please don't hang up." His voice was thick, slurred slightly, and I could hear music thumping in the background. "Something happened tonight and it's about you. I need to tell you. I can't keep this in anymore." I sat down on the edge of the bathtub, my stomach dropping. "What's going on? Are you okay?" "I'm not okay," he said, and I heard him choke back what sounded like a sob. "I've been lying to you for weeks and I can't do it anymore. Marcus is going to kill me for this, but I don't care. You deserve to know." The bathroom felt suddenly cold. I pulled my robe tighter around me and waited. "I'm at a club in Uptown right now," Derek continued. "We came here after dinner, me and Marcus and some of his new work friends. And Simone, he brought someone with him. A woman. Her name's Vanessa." The name landed like a stone in still water, sending ripples through everything I thought I knew. "They've been together for about 6 weeks," Derek said, the words tumbling out faster now, like he needed to confess it all before he lost his nerve. "I found out about a month ago when I saw them at a restaurant together. I confronted him about it, and he told me it wasn't serious, that he was just having fun, that he was going to end it. But tonight, Simone, tonight he was all over her, touching her, kissing her, introducing her to everyone like she was his girlfriend." I pressed my hand against my mouth, breathing slowly through my nose, refusing to make a sound that would wake anyone in the house. "He was drunk," Derek continued, "really drunk, and he started saying things, terrible things, about how he was upgrading from his basic wife, about how you were comfortable but he needed someone exciting. He literally said he was planning to ask you for a divorce so he could be with someone on his level." There it was, the confirmation of what I'd suspected but hadn't wanted to believe. Marcus hadn't just decided I wasn't good enough in some abstract way. He'd already found my replacement. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "Her name's Vanessa Kirby. She's a real estate agent, 32 years old, drives a Porsche, designer everything, runs in these wealthy circles he's trying to break into. They met at some luxury car showcase event about 2 months ago. He's been using late work meetings as an excuse to see her. 2 months. The timeline aligned perfectly with when his criticism of me had started intensifying, when he'd begun making comments about leveling up and being around excellence. He'd been comparing me to her the whole time, finding me lacking against a woman I didn't even know existed. He's bought her expensive gifts," Derek said, "taken her to restaurants he always told you were too expensive. Last week he took her to that new steakhouse in South Park, the one you wanted to try for your anniversary, and he said we couldn't afford. I saw the receipt, Simone, $250 for dinner. I thought about all the times I'd suggested we go out somewhere nice and Marcus had said we needed to save money. I thought about the times I'd wanted to buy something for myself and he'd made comments about being financially responsible. Meanwhile, he'd been spending hundreds of dollars on another woman." "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Because he's my boy, but what he's doing is wrong," Derek said, his voice cracking. "You've been good to him, Simone. You've been good to all of us. You've welcomed us into your home, fed us, treated us like family. And tonight he was talking about you like you were nothing, like you were some burden he was getting ready to shed. I couldn't sit there and listen to it anymore. I couldn't keep this secret and look you in the eye at the next barbecue and pretend I didn't know. Does anyone else know? I asked. His new work friends know about Vanessa, but I don't think they know he's still married. He's been pretty careful about keeping his two lives separate. But Simone, I'm also calling because I'm worried. Marcus is making really reckless financial decisions. He leased a more expensive car last week, something he definitely can't afford on his salary. He's buying designer clothes on credit. He's trying to keep up with people who have family money and trust funds. He's going to crash and burn, and if you're still legally tied to him when that happens, he's going to take you down with him. This information mattered. This was leverage. This was proof of dissipation of marital assets, proof of adultery in a fault state, proof of financial irresponsibility that would matter in custody and support discussions. Derek, I need you to tell me everything you know, I said. When they met, where they've been, what you've seen, what he's spent. Can you do that? You're not mad at me for not telling you sooner? He asked. I'm grateful you're telling me now, I said honestly. You're giving me information I need to protect myself and my daughters. We talked for another 20 minutes. Derek told me everything he'd observed, every conversation he'd overheard, every detail he could remember. When we finally hung up, I sat in that guest bathroom with my phone in my hand and let the full weight of it settle over me. 12 years of marriage, 2 daughters who worship their father, a life I'd built with careful attention and genuine love. And Marcus had thrown all of it away for a woman with a Porsche and designer labels who made him feel like he'd arrived somewhere important. The hurt was real. It moved through my chest like something physical, heavy and sharp. But underneath the hurt was something else. Clarity. Cold, bright clarity that cut through every remaining thread of obligation or sentimentality I might have felt towards saving this marriage. I didn't need to confront him about the affair. I didn't need to scream or cry or demand explanations. I needed to finish building my exit and make sure when I left, I took everything I was entitled to with me. I walked quietly back to our bedroom where Marcus was still sleeping, sprawled on his back with one arm thrown over his head, completely oblivious to the fact that his whole life was about to change. I stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at him, and felt absolutely nothing. The man I'd loved was already gone. This was just his shadow, and I was done living in it. The next morning, Marcus woke up like it was any other day. He showered, dressed in one of his new expensive suits, and came downstairs expecting breakfast. I'd already made coffee and eggs, had already gotten the girls ready for school, had already put on my mask of normalcy. "Good morning," he said, kissing me absently on the cheek. "Morning," I replied, handing him a plate. "You have an important meeting today?" "Just the usual Thursday stuff," he said, already scrolling through his phone. "I might be late again tonight. Got a work thing." "Another work thing," I said, and he didn't even hear the edge in my voice. "Yeah, you know how it is. Networking is half the job at this level." "I'm sure it is," I said, turning away so he wouldn't see my face. After he left for work and I dropped the girls at school, I sat in my car in the parking lot and called Patricia Chen, my attorney. "I need to move faster," I told her without preamble. "I have confirmation of the affair. I need divorce papers ready in 3 weeks." "What happened?" she asked. I told her everything Derek had shared. She listened, asked clarifying questions, took notes. "This is good for your case," she said when I finished. "Adultery matters here, and the financial recklessness matters even more. I'll start drafting papers today. We can file as soon as you're ready." That afternoon, I met Denise at the med spa location. The contractors had started the build-out, and the space was filled with the sounds of construction, drilling, hammering, the smell of fresh paint and sawdust. We walked through the space in hard hats, Denise pointing out where each treatment room would be, where the reception area would flow, where clients would feel welcomed and pampered. You seem different today, Denise observed, studying my face. What happened? I told her everything about Derek's call, about Vanessa, about Marcus's double life, and his plan to divorce me so he could upgrade to someone he considered more remarkable. Denise stopped walking and turned to face me fully. Girl, are you okay? Honestly, I said, I'm angry, I'm hurt, but I'm also relieved because now I know exactly who I'm dealing with. No more doubts, no more wondering if I'm overreacting. He made his choice, and now I get to make mine. What do you need from me? She asked. I need us to make this business so successful that his regret becomes unbearable, I said. Can we do that? Denise smiled, slow and fierce. Oh, honey, we can absolutely do that. We doubled down on everything, worked longer hours, pushed contractors to move faster, finalized every detail of our marketing strategy. I told Marcus I joined a book club with church ladies that met twice a week plus occasional weekend workshops. He barely acknowledged the information, just nodded absently while typing something on his phone. I watched him live his double life with a strange detachment, like I was observing a character in a movie rather than my own husband. He continued his pattern, working late 3 nights a week, taking phone calls outside in the backyard, smiling at texts he thought I couldn't see. Once I walked into the kitchen and caught him quickly switching his phone screen, and instead of asking what he was hiding, I just smiled and asked if he wanted coffee. You're in a good mood lately, he observed, actually looking at me for once. Just feeling positive about some things I'm working on, I said truthfully. The girls noticed more than he did. Maya asked one evening at dinner, "Why doesn't Daddy eat with us anymore?" Marcus had started eating at odd hours, claiming he'd had a late lunch or grabbing something quick before heading back to his office. Really, I suspected he was coordinating his schedule with Vanessa's availability. Daddy's very busy with work right now, sweetheart, I told Maya, brushing her hair back from her face. But it's okay, we're okay. Olivia looked at me with those perceptive eyes, and I saw her processing more than she said. Later, when I tucked her in, she asked, Mommy, are you and Daddy getting divorced? The question startled me. What makes you ask that, baby? Emma's parents got divorced last year, she said, and before it happened, her mom used to say, "It's okay, we're okay, just like you do." And her dad was never home just like our dad. I sat on the edge of her bed and chose my words carefully. Things are complicated right now between your daddy and me, but whatever happens, you and your sister are loved and safe, and that will never change. Do you understand? She nodded, then wrapped her arms around my neck. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby girl, I whispered into her hair. So much. I started preparing them emotionally without telling them the full truth, giving them extra attention and reassurance, making sure they knew their foundation was solid, even if their family structure might be changing. Every night I read to them longer than usual, held them tighter, told them stories about strong women in our family who'd faced hard things and survived. 3 weeks after Derek's phone call, on a Friday afternoon in early June, I left work early and came home to find Marcus already there, which was unusual. He was in the living room, tie loosened, shoes off, scrolling through his phone with that self-satisfied expression he'd been wearing lately. You're home early, I observed. Slow day, he said without looking up. Thought I'd get a head start on the weekend. I set my purse down on the kitchen table and pulled out a manila envelope from my work bag. My hands were steady. My voice was calm. I'd been preparing for this moment for 3 weeks, and I was ready. Marcus, can you come to the kitchen, please? I called. We need to talk. He sighed like I was interrupting something important, but he got up and walked into the kitchen. I was standing at the table, the same table where he'd told me I wasn't remarkable enough, where we'd shared thousands of meals, where our daughters did their homework every evening. What's up? He asked. I slid the manila envelope across the table toward him. "These are divorce papers," I said calmly. "I'm filing on Monday." 3 weeks after Derek's phone call, on a Friday afternoon, I did something Marcus never expected. I didn't confront him about Vanessa. I didn't scream or throw his clothes on the lawn. Instead, I handed him an envelope across our kitchen table, the same table where he'd told me I wasn't remarkable enough. Inside was everything he'd asked for: his freedom, his chance to do better. And attached to it was something he definitely didn't ask for: the bill for what that freedom was going to cost him. The look on Marcus's face when he saw those documents was something I'll remember for the rest of my life. He stared at the manila envelope like it was a foreign object, something that didn't belong in our kitchen, in our life, in the narrative he'd constructed where he got to decide when and how our marriage ended. "What?" The word came out sharp, disbelieving. "Simone, where is this coming from?" The audacity of that question almost made me laugh. Where was it coming from? From the man who told me I wasn't remarkable enough, from the husband who'd been sleeping with another woman for 2 months while I slept beside him. "Sit down, Marcus," I said, my voice calm in a way that clearly unnerved him. He pulled out a chair slowly, his eyes never leaving my face, searching for some sign that this was a bluff or an emotional outburst he could talk me down from. "These are divorce papers," I said. "I'm filing on Monday morning. I wanted to give you the weekend to find somewhere else to stay." "Baby, wait." He held up his hands. "You can't be serious. If this is about what I said that night, I was just frustrated. I didn't mean it literally." I sat down across from him and looked him directly in the eye. "You told me you could do better, Marcus, so I'm letting you go find better." "Simone, come on." He tried to laugh. "That was weeks ago. I thought we'd moved past that." "We haven't been fine," I said. "You just haven't been paying attention." He reached across the table like he was going to take my hand, but I pulled back. Something shifted in his expression then, real concern breaking through his dismissiveness. "What's going on with you?" he asked. "I'm telling you I want a divorce." "But why now?" I let the silence stretch between us for a moment, watching him squirm. Then I said her name. "Vanessa." All the color drained from his face. His mouth opened and closed like he couldn't find words. "How did you—" He started, then stopped. "It doesn't matter how I know," I said calmly. "What matters is that I know. I know you met her at a car showcase in February. I know you've been seeing her for 2 months. I know you took her to that steakhouse you said we couldn't afford. I know you bought her gifts while telling me we needed to be financially responsible. I know you've been planning to ask me for a divorce so you could be with someone on your level." With each sentence, I watched him shrink further into his chair. "Simone, I can explain." "I don't need you to explain, Marcus. I need you to sign the papers." "This is insane," he said, his voice rising. "You can't just ambush me with divorce papers. We have kids. We need to talk about this like adults." "We are talking about it," I replied. "Adults who recognize when a marriage is over." He stood up, started pacing. "I made a mistake, okay? Yes, I've been seeing someone, but it's not serious. It's just been a distraction from work stress." "You wanted remarkable, Marcus," said, standing to face him. "So I'm giving you the most remarkable divorce you could imagine." He finally picked up the papers, actually looked at them. I watched his eyes scan the pages, saw him register the numbers. "Half of everything?" His voice pitched higher. "Half the house equity? Half my retirement? Primary custody?" "It's called equitable distribution," I said. "And yes, I want primary custody. I've been the primary parent for their entire lives." $1,400 a month in child support? Simone, I can't afford that." "You could afford $250 dinners with Vanessa," I pointed out. "You could afford a $3,000 watch. The court will determine what you can afford based on your actual income, not the fantasy budget you've been living on. He flipped through more pages, and I could see the moment he found the financial documentation. Bank statements showing joint account expenditures, credit card bills showing purchases at jewelry stores and restaurants, my own records showing mortgage payments, utilities, groceries. "You've been documenting everything," he said flatly. "I've been protecting myself," I corrected. "You've been living above our means for months. I've been covering the shortfall. I have proof of every bill I've paid while you played big shot. You're about to find out what you actually can't afford." He sank back into the chair. "Simone, please. The girls need their father." "The girls have their father. They just won't have him living here anymore." "You can't just kick me out of my own house." "It's half my house, Marcus, and I'm the one who's been paying the full mortgage for the last 4 months while you financed your midlife crisis. You can leave voluntarily this weekend, or I can file for exclusive possession. Your choice." He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. "What's going on with you?" he asked again, genuine bewilderment in his voice. "You seem like a different person." "I am a different person," I said. "I'm the remarkable woman you said I wasn't." "What are you talking about? Remember when Denise wanted me to go into business with her? Remember you told me it was too risky?" He nodded slowly. "I did it anyway," I said, and I smiled. "The morning after you told me I wasn't remarkable enough, I called Denise back. We've been building a med spa in South End for 3 months. We're opening in 2 weeks. His mouth fell open. "I'm a business owner now, Marcus. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm exactly what you said I could never be. I'm remarkable. I just needed you to get out of my way so I could prove it." The next 2 weeks were a master class in watching someone's world unravel. Marcus tried everything. He sent flowers with cards saying he was sorry. I gave them to the receptionist. He texted long paragraphs about working on our marriage. I responded with my attorney's contact information. He showed up with takeout from my favorite restaurant, trying to recreate old date nights. "You're not even giving me a chance to make this right," he said, standing on the porch. "You had 12 years to make it right," I replied. "I'm done, Marcus." He moved out that weekend, packing his things while I sat scrolling through emails about the grand opening. He kept pausing, looking around like he expected me to break down and tell him to stay. "Where am I supposed to go?" he asked. "You could stay with your brother," I suggested, "or get an apartment. I'm sure Vanessa would help you find something nice." He winced. "I ended things with her." "That doesn't change anything between you and me." He found a one-bedroom apartment in University City. The rent ate up a significant portion of his salary. The leased BMW suddenly felt like an anchor. The expensive clothes seemed ridiculous in a cramped apartment with thin walls. And Vanessa, she started pulling back the moment she learned he was actually getting divorced with real financial obligations. "She's not returning my calls," Marcus admitted to Derek, not knowing Derek had told me everything. While Marcus's world contracted, mine expanded. August 15th, 2019 dawned bright and hot. I'd been awake since 5, too excited to sleep, going over every detail in my mind. Radiance Wellness and Aesthetics. The name felt like a promise. Denise and I arrived at 6 to ensure everything was perfect. The space looked exactly as we'd envisioned. Floor-to-ceiling windows, exposed brick painted soft cream, modern furniture in jewel tones, art by local Black artists. The treatment rooms had state-of-the-art equipment. The reception area smelled like custom lavender and vanilla candles. Music played softly through speakers. "We did this," Denise said, tears in her eyes. "We actually did this." "We did," I agreed, squeezing her hand. We'd invited local influencers, bloggers, media contacts, potential clients. We offered opening specials, champagne, light refreshments, gift bags with samples. We'd hired a photographer, understanding these images would be part of our brand story forever. I wore an emerald green dress that made me feel powerful. My hair was styled in soft curls. My makeup was flawless. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman I barely recognized, someone confident and glowing and ready. The doors opened at 10. People started flowing in immediately. By noon, we'd had over 200 people. By 3, we'd booked $15,000 in services for the coming month. By 6, we knew we'd exceeded every expectation. The local ABC affiliate sent a reporter for a segment on new Black-owned businesses. I watched myself on the news that evening, articulate and passionate. We wanted to create a space where women of color feel seen, understood, and celebrated, I said to the camera. Where providers understand melanated skin, where treatments are tailored to our specific needs, where walking through the door feels like coming home. My social high. Media following jumped from 400 to 3,000 in a day. Comments poured in from women saying they'd been waiting for exactly this. Olivia and Maya were there, wearing matching lavender dresses, helping pass out flyers. I watched them navigate the space with pride in their eyes. "Mommy, you own this whole place?" Maya asked, eyes wide. "I own half of it, baby," I corrected. "Miss Denise and I are partners. We built this together." "You built a whole business," Olivia said with awe, "like this is yours." "That's how you build something real," I told them. "You find good people, you work hard, and you don't let anyone tell you you're not capable." My phone buzzed around 7, a text from Marcus. "Saw you on the news. You look beautiful. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry." I read it, felt nothing, and put my phone away without responding. Denise looked at me. "Was that him?" "Yeah." "You okay?" "I'm perfect," I said, and I meant it. The med spa's success was just the beginning. Within 3 months, we were booked solid 6 weeks out. Within 6 months, we were profitable and planning a second location. And Marcus? His life looked very different. His expensive lifestyle caught up with him. His job performance suffered, and Vanessa was long gone. But what happened next showed me that karma has a schedule all its own, and Marcus's reckoning was far from over. By October 2019, 3 months after opening, Radiance had a problem I'd never imagined. We were turning away clients. Our calendar was booked 6 weeks in advance. Women called daily asking for cancellation lists. Our Instagram had grown to 15,000 followers, with women tagging us in photos, writing reviews, recommending us everywhere. "We need to expand," Denise said one evening as we reviewed numbers. "We're leaving money on the table." I looked at the revenue spreadsheet. Month 4, $65,000. Month 6, actual, $90,000. We'd blown past every conservative estimate. "We need more staff first," I said. "We can't sacrifice quality." We hired 3 more estheticians, all women of color with specialized training in melanated skin. We brought on a receptionist named Jasmine with warmth and organizational skills to manage our complex scheduling. We added laser hair removal, body contouring, wellness consultations, vitamin infusions. By November, we were planning a second location. That same month, the Charlotte Business Journal published their 40 Under 40 list. Denise and I were both included, featured in a 2-page spread about Black women creating wealth and opportunity in Charlotte. "We're not just providing services," I told the reporter. "We're building community. We're creating a space where Black and brown women can invest in themselves without having to code switch or explain. That's powerful." The article came out on a Wednesday. By Friday, I'd been invited to speak at 2 networking events. A lifestyle magazine wanted to feature us. The Chamber of Commerce reached out about membership. I was becoming exactly what Marcus said I wasn't. Remarkable, impressive, someone who commanded attention. While my star rose, Marcus's fell in almost perfect inverse. In November 2019, Marcus was fired from the luxury car dealership. Derek called me. I thought you should know they let him go this morning. What happened? Performance issues, attitude problems. His manager noticed discrepancies. Marcus had been taking longer test drives than policy allowed, trying to act like a big shot instead of following protocols. His sales numbers tanked because he spent more time trying to network than actually working. His manager had noticed Marcus's expensive purchases that didn't match his salary. In a business built on trust and financial credibility, that raised red flags. "We're letting you go, effective immediately," they told him. Suddenly, Marcus faced reality without the buffer of a high income. The consequences cascaded fast. The expensive apartment became unaffordable. The leased BMW had to be returned. Credit card debt from his lifestyle came due. And my child support petition went through $1,400 monthly. "That's more than my rent," he texted after the hearing. "How am I supposed to live?" I didn't respond. His financial situation wasn't my concern. By December, Marcus had moved into his brother's cramped two-bedroom. He returned the BMW and started driving a 10-year-old Honda. The designer clothes stayed in his closet with nowhere to wear them, and Vanessa disappeared completely. She blocked his number, stopped responding, ghosted him the moment his financial situation became clear. "She never wanted me," Marcus admitted to Derek. "She wanted the fantasy. The second that disappeared, so did she." Word spread through Charlotte's Black professional community. People knew Marcus had cheated, left his family, lost his job, lost everything while his ex-wife thrived. The contrast made him a cautionary tale. "Don't be like Marcus Harper," I overheard at a networking event. "Man threw away a good woman for nothing." Former friends distanced themselves. Colleagues stopped inviting him to events. His social media went quiet. My daughters were adjusting to the new reality. Per custody agreement, Olivia and Maya spent alternating weekends and one weeknight with Marcus. The difference in their energy was stark. At Marcus's brother's apartment, things were cramped and tense. They slept on an air mattress in the living room. No yard, no space for homework, no comfortable routines. "Daddy seems sad all the time," Maya told me. "He's going through a hard time, baby," I said carefully. "But he loves you." Olivia was more direct. "His apartment is depressing, Mom. Uncle Leon is always making comments about Marcus getting his life together. We can hear them arguing." It broke my heart for them, and surprisingly for Marcus. He'd wanted them to see him as successful. Instead, they watched him struggle. But at my house, life was stable and warm and full. Dance parties in the kitchen, movie nights with popcorn, Sunday pancake breakfasts where the girls helped cook and we laughed. They watched me run a business, handle challenges with confidence, build something meaningful. "My mom owns a business," I heard Olivia tell her friend. "She helps women feel beautiful. She's really successful." The pride in her voice made everything worth it. I also started focusing on my own healing. I found a therapist, Dr. Williams, a Black woman who specialized in helping women process betrayal and rebuild after divorce. "You're doing all the external work," she observed, "but are you processing the emotional impact? Are you grieving?" I had to sit with that because I'd been so focused on moving forward that I hadn't let myself feel the loss. Therapy gave me space to feel all of it without judgment, to cry about the future I'd imagined, to rage about being devalued, to mourn the version of Marcus I'd fallen in love with. But therapy also helped me recognize my strength. "You didn't just survive," Dr. Williams said. "You transformed." I joined a Black women entrepreneurs group that met monthly, women at various stages of building businesses. They became my community, my support system, people who understood what it meant to be constantly proving yourself. I started dating casually, nothing serious, just reminding myself I was still desirable. A lawyer took me to dinner and made me laugh, A teacher's cousin took me salsa dancing, and I remembered what it felt like to be appreciated. I wasn't looking for a relationship. I was looking for proof that Marcus's assessment had been wrong. I also started taking care of my physical health. I joined a gym, started running in the early morning quiet, took up yoga. I wasn't doing it for Marcus or any man. I was doing it for myself, reclaiming my body as my own. By May 2020, we were ready to open our second location. The timing was complicated because of COVID-19, but we adapted quickly. We implemented strict protocols, medical-grade air filtration, virtual consultations, pre-booking procedures. Our clients trusted us. The Myers Park location was even more upscale. Marble countertops, heated floors, a waiting area like a high-end living room, latest technology. Opening month revenue across both locations, $75,000. We now employed 15 people, almost all women of color, with good jobs and benefits. Denise and I sat after closing and just looked at each other in amazement. "Do you remember when we were trying to convince banks to take us seriously?" she asked. "I remember every person who questioned whether women like us would spend money on these services," I replied, "and now we're doing $75,000 a month and planning location 3. Meanwhile, Marcus kept trying to reach out. Long texts about learning his lesson, understanding what he'd lost, being in therapy. Cards on my birthday and Mother's Day, showing up at church, trying to catch my eye. I was polite but firm. We co-parent our daughters. That's the extent of our relationship. "Can't we at least be friends?" he asked once. "No, Marcus. We can be respectful co-parents, but friendship requires trust, and you broke that beyond repair." His job search was humbling. He couldn't land anything close to his previous salary. The employment gap, the firing, his damaged reputation all worked against him. He eventually took a job at a mid-tier dealership in Concord, 45 minutes from Charlotte, making half his previous income. No luxury brands, no wealthy clients, no pretense. In March 2021, the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce recognized Radiance as New Business of the Year. Denise and I accepted our award at the Mint Museum in front of hundreds of business leaders. I gave a speech about building businesses that serve underrepresented communities, about women supporting women, about creating economic opportunity. The applause was sustained. I was approached by people asking me to join boards, speak at events, mentor young entrepreneurs. I joined the Women's Business Association board. My Instagram grew to 25,000 women sharing dreams of entrepreneurship, saying our story inspired them. 1 year after divorce, the comparison was stark. I was a business owner with 2 locations and a third in planning, a respected voice in Charlotte's business community, financially independent, glowing with confidence. I was raising daughters who saw their mother as strong and capable. I was building wealth and legacy. Marcus was living in his brother's spare room, driving a used car, working a job he felt was beneath him, paying child support that strained his budget, socially diminished. The better he thought he could do had led him to the worst circumstances of his life. By the spring of 2021, 2 years after Marcus said I wasn't remarkable enough, I'd built something he never imagined I could. But the real test came when he showed up at my door one evening, not with arrogance or excuses, but with something I never expected to see from him: genuine brokenness. And what he asked me that night forced me to decide who I wanted to be in this new chapter of my life. It was a Thursday evening in May 2021 when Marcus knocked on my door. I just changed into comfortable clothes, about to start dinner. The girls were at dance class. When I opened the door, I barely recognized him. Not because he looked terrible, but because of something in his posture, in his eyes, in the way he stood without armor or entitlement. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. "Please?" Something genuine and broken in his voice made me step aside. We sat in the living room where he'd once criticized my choices, now redecorated in warm earth tones with art I'd chosen myself, comfortable and entirely mine. What's going on, Marcus? He took a breath. Simone, I destroyed the best thing I ever had. I know that now. I stayed quiet. These past 2 years have been the hardest of my life, he said, voice thick with emotion. I lost my job, my money, my reputation. I lost the woman I thought I wanted. I lost respect from people I cared about. I lost time with my daughters I can never get back. And I did all of it to myself because I got caught up in ego and status. He wiped at his eyes. I'd never seen Marcus cry. I thought I needed someone impressive to prove I'd made it, he continued. But I already had everything I needed. A wife who loved me, who supported me, who built a home with me, daughters who adored me, a life that was good and real, and I threw it all away for an illusion. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm in therapy, and my therapist asked who I owed amends to. You're at the top of that list. You deserved so much better than how I treated you. You deserved a partner who saw your value, who celebrated you, who built you up. I'm so sorry I wasn't that person. The apology landed between us, and I felt something shift toward release. I appreciate you saying that, I told him honestly. Vanessa leaving taught me something, he said. She never wanted me. She wanted the lifestyle, the image. The second I couldn't provide that, I became worthless to her. And I realized I'd been doing the same to you. I'd been evaluating your worth based on how you made me look instead of who you actually were. He looked around the room at the family photos, the evidence of a life that thrived without him. You were always remarkable, he said quietly. I was just too insecure to see it. You were already everything I was pretending to be. You just needed someone who would support that instead of feeling threatened. I nodded, feeling the truth even as I knew it changed nothing. Is there any chance, he asked, voice breaking, any possibility that we could try again? I'm not the same man. I've been in therapy for 8 months. I see what I had and what I threw away. I would spend the rest of my life making it up to you and the girls. Tears streamed down his face, genuine remorse written across every feature. I took a long breath and spoke the truth I'd known for a while. Marcus, I appreciate your apology. I believe you're sorry. I believe you've learned something. Hope flickered in his eyes. But no, I continued gently. There's no possibility of us trying again. The hope died, replaced by devastation. Not because I hate you or want to punish you, but because the woman you're apologizing to doesn't exist anymore. I'm not the Simone who would have begged you to stay. I'm not the woman who needed your validation to feel worthy. I leaned forward. These past 2 years have been the hardest and the best of my life. I built a business from nothing. I proved to myself what I'm capable of when someone isn't telling me I'm not good enough. Our daughters watch me run companies, lead teams, make decisions, stand on my own. That's worth more to me than any reconciliation. You taught me an important lesson, Marcus. You taught me that my worth was never determined by how you saw me. It was always there. I just needed to believe it myself. Tears flowed on both our faces, but for different reasons. I forgive you, I said clearly. I genuinely do. Not for you, but for me, so I can move forward without bitterness. You made terrible choices that hurt me and our daughters, but you're still a human being who deserves the chance to grow and build a better life. But forgiveness doesn't mean we go back, I continued. It means we both go forward, just not together. You can still be a good father. You can rebuild your life. You can become the man you're trying to be. But you'll do all of that without me. Marcus put his face in his hands and cried, shoulders shaking. I sat with him in that grief, bearing witness to consequences that couldn't be unmade. When he composed himself, he asked, "Can I at least know that you're happy?" I'm happier than I've ever been, I told him. I'm building something meaningful. I'm raising our daughters to be strong. I'm surrounded by people who support me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. He nodded, accepting it even as it broke him. You can still be a good father, I reminded him. The girls need to see you rebuild, to see that people can make mistakes and grow. That's the legacy you can still leave. I will, he promised. I'll be better for them. Then that's enough. He stood to leave, pausing at the door. For what it's worth, I really am proud of what you've built. You're everything I said you weren't, and I was wrong. Thank you. I hope you find what you're looking for. After he left, I sat alone in my living room, in the house I'd made into a home on my own terms, and I felt nothing but peace. Today, I'm 41 years old. I own 3 Radiance Wellness locations across North Carolina. We employ 37 people, mostly women of color, and we do over $2 million in annual revenue. My daughters are 13 and 10. They know their mother is strong, independent, and unstoppable. Marcus and I co-parent respectfully. He eventually got his own apartment, kept working, slowly rebuilt, stability. I genuinely wish him well. When someone tells you you're not enough, believe them. Not because they're right about you, but because they're telling you who they are. Marcus needed someone to make him look good. I needed someone who saw my value. Those needs were never going to align. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so beautiful that their absence becomes irrelevant. If you're in a relationship where someone makes you feel small, please hear me. You are not small. You are exactly who you need to be. And sometimes, the greatest gift someone can give you is letting you go so you can find out how powerful you really are. If this story touched you, please hit that like button and subscribe to Black Lady Tales. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to rebuild yourself after someone broke your heart? What did you learn? I read every comment, and your stories give me strength. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me share my truth. Until next time, remember, you are remarkable, whether anyone else sees it or not. My name is Simone Harper, and this is my story. I hope it helps you write yours.